Well, do I have to introduce Pierre Albaladejo? Of course, everybody know him, and he's going to discuss a different situation: urgent surgery, DOACs, or VKA. Pierre.
Thank you, Ariel. So this is a frequent situation in the emergency operating room. Patients coming for an urgent surgery or an urgent invasive procedure and treated with either DOACs or vitamin K antagonists. And in fact, this describes a very large situation because, as you know, there is not a definitive, precise definition of what means urgent in urgent surgery. So the questions we ask when we have such a patient is: can we wait? And if we need to wait, how long do I need to delay the surgery to be sure that the anticoagulant will not impact the bleeding risk of the surgery? Do I have the ability, the possibility, the availability to have specific dosage of the anticoagulant? So as you understand, for VKA, it's very easy. It's very easy to have an INR and to try to know exactly what INR is and to try to reach either by waiting or by using vitamin K or PCCs to reach an INR of less than 1.5. We'll see that. Can we use PCCs in this situation? Can we reverse the anticoagulation by PCCs? Easy for VK because it's the only solution. But as Sarah told, it's a little bit difficult for DOACs to reverse these anticoagulants. So I think the main thing when you have such a patient is to try to sketch an ID of the patient regarding the anticoagulation and the impact of this anticoagulant on the surgical situation we are facing with. Regarding DOACs, we need to have a precise scheme of treatment, the precise indication, the precise time of the last intake, and to know, and sometimes it's not very easy to know exactly what kind of anticoagulant the patient is treated with. Because as Sarah told you previously, the impact of different DOACs will not be the same on standard lab tests. And if you have the ability to have specific tests, you need to pick up the right test. The second part is very easy, in fact, and it should be done for every patient. Age, weight, and creatinine will help you to go calculate a Cockcroft. Because for DOACs, we need this parameter because this is one of the main factors to explain a change in pharmacokinetic of the DOACs. So we need to have this and also the co-medication, and I mean by that that several of these patients are also treated with drugs that will induce surgical bleeding. Or I'm talking about mainly antiplatelet drugs. You need to know that a patient treated with both an anticoagulant and an antiplatelet drug will increase the bleeding risk in normal life, spontaneous bleeding, but also for surgery. And regarding this point, we need to know that when we use NSAIDs, we also increase the risk of bleeding when the patient is treated with such anticoagulants. Regarding VK, it's easier, even if the second part, age, weight, creatinine, Cockcroft, and co-medication, has the same effect on surgical bleeding in patients treated with VKA. So the main question finally is what is the definition of urgent surgery? Because the span is quite large and we can have different situations. So we try to use for the EHRA guidance this classification coming from the NCPOD classification, the British classification of urgent surgeries, which categorizes procedures that are immediate procedures, which means that the patient needs to be operated within minutes. And the typical example is a type A aortic dissection. On the other part of the slide, you have expedite procedures. Patients need to be operated within days. And typically, these patients are a hip fracture, for example. And in the middle, you have urgent surgeries, patients needing to be operated within hours. And you have a lot of examples to put in this category, but I choose peritonitis because peritonitis, depending on the case, maybe you have several hours to operate them unless they are in septic shock. Anyway, they need intensive care during this period. And in these three situations, the management of anticoagulants, and also this is the same for antiplatelet drugs, in fact, will be quite different. In the first situation, we need to operate the patient very quickly. So this situation will be the typical situation where you will use reversal strategies, either by PCCs for VKA, for example, patient treated with VKA, or other type of reversing strategies for DOACs. And we'll see that it is probably in this situation that we will need antidotes. For example, if I have these patients treated by dabigatran and the ability to have the availability of idarucizumab, I will use it for this situation. And for if it's available, probably this would be an indication for andexanet with several conditions, and we probably do not have all these conditions. Conditions of efficacy, the ability to prolong the administration of this antidote, and the price. We didn't talk about the price. In the other situation of the hip fracture, for example, this is a particular situation because in a patient with a hip fracture is already bleeding in the fracture. So and also we can delay a little bit this procedure. We all know that we will not delay the surgical management of a hip fracture longer than 48 hours, because if you operate these people after 2 days, you will increase the probability of morbidity and post-op complications. And in this situation, you will probably not absolutely reverse the anticoagulant for this patient. We can discuss that with if you have questions on that, but I think that it depends on the situation. For example, if today you receive at the ER a patient, a woman with a hip fracture, and you have a slot to operate her at 10 p.m., she is treated with VKA. I will probably use PCCs to reverse this anticoagulation. But if she is treated with dabigatran or rivaroxaban in the same situation, I'm not sure that I will use these antidotes just to be sure that I will use the surgical slot. In this patient, probably I will delay the procedure till tomorrow, for example. And in the middle, it's very difficult to answer strictly. For example, a patient with a peritonitis treated with VKA, I will reverse with PCC before surgery, okay? Because we have a lot of experience in doing this. And however, if the patient is treated with DOACs, whatever the DOACs, it will depend on the time of the last intake, the Cockcroft of the patient, and the probability that the concentration of this drug, of these drugs, are elevated. If I have the opportunity to dose, I will dose it. But I know that several of these patients will not bleed despite the fact that they have a significant concentration of DOACs. And I will wait until the surgeon says that the bleeding is observing from the skin or from any cut is attributable, is due to the anticoagulant. Now, this is really difficult, but in this situation, I just will wait if the bleeding is attributable to the anticoagulant. So, two situations. The first one, patient is treated with VKA. In the left hand part of the slide, we need anyway an INR less than 1.5, and if it's neurosurgery, 1.2. So in this situation, I will use PCCs. The dose will be 25 units per kilogram if I do not have the results of the INR, for example. But if I have, I can use the tables of PCCs to precisely use the good dose for the particular patient. And also I will add vitamin K, not more than 5 milligram, because the elimination half-life of one of the factors in the PCC is around 6 hours. So I will need to add vitamin K in these patients. I will not use FFP's fresh frozen plasma for this patient, only to reverse anticoagulation due to VKA, because it's too slow and it's too much volume. But I will probably use FFPs for other conditions and indication. On the other part of the slide, for patient with hip fracture, for example, I will wait and add PCCs to to accelerate the recovery of the coagulation. This is the last slide. What can we do for patients treated with DOACs? If in the situation of immediate procedure, I will, and this is very important, and Sarah stressed this point, I will draw blood samples and send it to the lab to have the standard lab tests and to ask for specific tests, because I want to use antidotes if I have these antidotes. The patient is treated with dabigatran, I will use either usizumab, and probably I would use andexanet if the patient is treated with rivaroxaban or apixaban. And I will need the results of this blood sample to be sure that, as Sarah said, one dose of the antidote is enough, and to be sure that the post-op hemorrhagic bleeding risk of the patient will be covered by an antidote or a reversal strategy. And then I will authorize the operation and repeat coagulation panel to be more precise on the management of the patient. On the other hand, I will postpone the surgery if I can. I can wait also. If I have the opportunity to dose, I will dose, just to be sure that at the moment of the surgery, I have reasonable levels of concentration of DOACs to do the surgery. And in the middle, I will, it depends on the situation, and probably I will not reverse systematically the DOACs for these surgeries. So this is my last slide. The difficulty is to try to give guidance for the urgent surgery, knowing that the categorization of these surgeries is very difficult to do, and it depends really on the situation. But we have here, with these three pathways, three situations that summarizes the main situation we face for urgent surgery. Thank you, Ariel.
Thank you very much, Pierre. Well, we have again some questions from all the people who are listening to this very important session. So perhaps just to go back to the last slide, Pierre, is it in fact frequent to use antidotes in urgent surgery for DOACs especially? Is it frequent, really?
No, in fact, no. Usually for urgent surgery, well, in fact, the immediate procedure, such as, I don't know, a rupture aneurysm or things like that, we are in a context of coagulopathy due to massive bleeding. So we try to reverse by using PCCs, for example, or fresh frozen plasma. We don't use specifically unless we have it in the operating room. If a patient has, in this situation, a patient treated with dabigatran, I would use idarucizumab, but in my hospital we didn't use idarucizumab because we didn't get any patient treated with dabigatran and this kind of situation. For aortic dissection, for example, this is a cardiac surgery with bypass. We need anticoagulation for the bypass. The bleeding risk is just after sternotomy and at the end of the bypass. So to reverse the anticoagulation after the bypass, it is a little bit complicated, but we can use PCCs on top of protamine to reverse heparin if the patient is treated with DOACs. So yes, I would use antidote if I have them in the first situation, only immediate procedure. But it's really rare, in fact.
Pierre, I know that you have an extensive experience regarding acute stroke, and I have a question for you. If you have to thrombolize a patient under DOACs, well, what do we have to do? Can we wait, or do we have to do it?
No, we cannot wait, but I know that the different societies of neurovascular societies have issued guidelines and guidance to know exactly what we need to do. There was a rule that said that if the patient is treated with VKA, with an INR more than 1.7, I think, you should not thrombolize the patient. But anyway, they use less and less antidotes, and they are doing a lot of procedures with a higher threshold, in fact. So we need more experience. And overall, thrombolysis for a stroke is only one side of the part. There is thrombectomy that you can do without thrombolysis.
And I have one last question for you, but in fact it's two questions within one question. Is it really relevant to delay hip fracture surgery if the patient is treated either with VKA or DOACs?
As I said, if you have the availability of the OR and there are studies showing that the main reason for delaying urgent surgery is not due to the treatment, is not due to the patient, it's due to the organization and the team. So if I have the team available for a slot, early slot, I would do it, and I would reverse the patient with PCCs if the patient is treated with VKA. And as I said too, for DOACs, it's a little bit different.
Thank you very much, Pierre, again for this beautiful presentation. And